take a breath, I'm not gonna lose. This is what I came here to do. I walk that wire and I take that step. Won't look down, got no regrets. Won't look down, got no regrets. I was made for this. I was made for this. Born in the wild, formed in the fire, built for the battle. Oh, I was made for this. I was made for this. Mind over matter, silence the doubters. I have the power. Oh, I was made for this. I was made for this.
So yeah, I'm Dirk Merle. I've been a cyclist for a long time. Had kind of a love affair with bikes on and off for a lot of years. Kind of rediscovered cycling when I moved to Searcy County. So my bike is a 2020 Kona Libra. It's a carbon bike. His name is Teddy, named after Theodore Roosevelt. And so Teddy Koneveld is the bike I ride. So Teddy's geared. I bought the bike just as a frame. And then with the help of a bike shop and a friend of mine, we built the bike up. Teddy's set up for, kind of hardcore gravel cycling. So the Ozark Grinder Trail is a multi-surface route that's been created in Searcy County using existing county roads and state roads. So probably 2/3 of the route is gravel and 1/3 of the route is pavement. The route starts in Gilbert, so the route is kind of the brainchild of a couple of Searcy County people, Daryl Treat and Lee Walsh and Dana Treat and myself actually rode around kind of mapping this whole thing out. And so we now have a trailhead at Gilbert. This route goes all the way to Fairfield Bay. It's 140 some miles. It's longer if you take in the spurs and loops that we created. But we really wanted to showcase some of the more iconic places in Searcy County and in Van Buren County and some of the parts of Stone County that the route goes through. And so Section 1 goes from Gilbert to Whit Springs, Section 2 Whit Springs to Leslie, Section 3 is Leslie to Shirley, and then Shirley to Fairfield Bay is Section 4. And you can jump in on any section you want, but nobody's really ridden this thing end to end. And so we wanted to get a good map of it. We wanted to get good elevation. So that's what this 2-day journey was about. And so I started out at Gilbert, and the goal was to get to Leslie on day 1, which was essentially going to be about 75 miles. And Leslie's great because there's restaurants, convenience stores, there's places to stay. And so that was the goal, was to get to Leslie on day 1. Okay, so it's 6 o'clock and I'm getting close to heading out. I'm finishing up some coffee, just finished rolling my chain. Gonna finish packing out what I have on the bed, and I'm about to set out on the Ozark Grinder Trail, so I'm super excited about that. I'm starting out here in Gilbert. I'm at Buffalo Camping and Canoeing right here by the general store. Stayed in a cabin here last night. The route actually starts out in front and we'll go up to Highway 65, and then I'll be on Highway 65 for a few minutes, turn off into Tyler Bend where I get on Peter Cave Road, and that's kind of where the fun begins. So today I'm hoping to do about 70 some miles. I'm going to try to get a lot of photos and video of what the route looks like. So I'll be going from Gilbert up to Tyler Bend, Peter Cave Road over to Snowball. Then Snowball, I've got a really tough climb to Peter Mountain, and I cross over Peter Mountain, go down into Richland Valley, and then from Richland Valley I'll take that to Dickey Junction. So another, I think that's about a 3.5-4 mile pull to get to Dickey Junction. And then from Dickey Junction I'll go down to Richland Creek, cross over the creek, go by the campgrounds that most people are familiar with, and then climb out of Richland to Whit Springs, from Whit Springs, I'll be on pavement for about 14 miles until I get over to Star Mountain. And then Star Mountain I'll take all the way over to Leslie, where I'll finish the day. That's a beautiful section. It's going to be kind of an easier section than this. This first section is probably the toughest one. But anyhow, I'm excited about getting this day going and sharing all these cool photos and videos with you guys. So we'll stay tuned. That's not good. I got a flat tire. So what I'll probably have to do is, if this keeps happening, I'm going to have to literally take the tire off, and I'll have to break it down, put a tube in it. So I do carry an extra tube. I'll have to run with a tube instead of going tubeless. Somehow or another it's not seating in here, but we'll see. They're usually pretty good about that sealant. You run sealant in these, so usually pretty good about sealing itself. So
jump in front of you and get up by the bridge.
okay.
Start time, 7:10.
Okay, so I just left Gilbert a little while ago, got out on 65, made my way up here to Tyler Bend. I just turned into Tyler Bend. I'll probably be on this main entrance for a couple miles, and then you get to Peter Cave Road. And so I'll turn off left on Peter Cave Road, and then I'll be on gravel. I get to have some fun. I'll cross Calf Creek, get to do some really cool stuff down in there, get to the bluffs hugging the river. And this is really a beautiful start to the gravel of the Ozark Grinder Trail.
Hello, let me tell you about me. I am the one that draws you in as I speak. Come closer, wipe the tear from your cheek. Sit down, come around, cause soon the sound will be gone. And the memory of me will keep you stuttering on, still stuttering on, and on, stuttering on. Let me tell you a story, a simple allegory. My time in purgatory, no more freedom for me. I must have been mad. I whispered in the ear of the one woman I couldn't have. I've talked with the devil, brought him down to his knees. Let me tell you about me. I write your favorite song. I've sung with angels, I've spoken tongues. Now that you're gone, I'm stuck here stuttering on. I said hello, let me tell you about me. I am the one that draws you in as I speak. Come closer, wipe the tears from your cheek. Sit down, come round, cause when the sound is gone, the memory of me will keep you stuttering on. Well, I've talked with the devil, I brought him down to his knees. Let me tell you about me, about your favorite song. I've sung with angels.
A little further up Peter Cave, you actually start riding up to the bluffs that overlook the river. And the road hugs those bluffs, and so you can literally stop, get off your bike, and you walk, 50 feet, and here you are on these bluffs overlooking the Buffalo River. And there's just one really cool area where you have these real old cedar trees that, I don't know, they just kind of speak to you. You just got to get off your bike and go see these cedar trees, and they're just kind of hugging the bluffs, and they're growing through these rocks. There's no telling how old these trees are, but it's like a photo op for sure. It's a great place to get your bike out there and get some great photos of the river.
Okay, so I'm at this little section here where you get a great view of the valley, the mountains, and the Buffalo River. There's a really old cedar tree up here that's pretty cool. So, I have no idea how old these old cedar trees are. They're just majestic. It's so cool. I'll walk down to this area here. I'll take you around to a different part of it as well. But anyhow, you can see there's the river. It's just absolutely beautiful. Yeah, so this is kind of the stuff you get to see on the Ozark Grinder Trail when you're in the national park.
into Snowball, and there's the old general store at Snowball that has the old post office in it, and that's still in operation. The store is, and so you can stop there and you can get food, but it's a really neat thing to see when you're riding into Snowball, these old buildings. And then when you leave there, you start getting into some intense climbing. So there's an area called Peter Mountain, and you actually have to climb that area, right? And so it's a real tough climb. But then again, when you get to the top, it's like views of Searcy County that are just amazing. And you get to see all this really cool stuff. And then you get this big descent down into Richland Valley. And Richland Valley is one of those, you know, it's just kind of like one of those magic places in Arkansas. Richland is a popular area for kayakers. But you get down in the valley and it's just so beautiful. And you're just surrounded by mountains and you're down in the valley. A lot of elk come down in there and graze. You get some really cool miles before you get back into tougher climbs, right? And you climb out of there to an area called Dickey Junction. It's about a 4-mile pull on some chunky road. Some of it's intense, but most of it's just long pull, so it's not a terrible climb. Definitely wear your legs out. But again, when you get to Dickey Junction, you've got a huge long descent that takes you down into Richland, where you cross Richland Creek. And again, that's what the Ozarks are. So we don't have big mountains in the Ozarks, but we have sort of these relentless climbs and amazing descents.
When you're born on the right side of the road.
Day one was a tough day for me because I'm not good with my nutrition game. I tend to not really keep up with eating well or hydrating well. You just kind of get lost in the moment and forget about it. And so I really didn't get enough calories on day one. I think that night I thought about what I ate that day, and I probably got 1,000 calories all day. So I was really kind of bonking when I got to Richland Creek. I was struggling. I did have a crash on that section, and it was just kind of like a mind, you know, just it was really a mistake. You know, typically you take one hand off the bars to grab your water. Well, I wasn't thinking clearly, and I just took both my hands off the bars, and immediately it went down. So it wasn't kind of a dramatic crash, but it was it's like one of those falls you get where gravel's kind of unforgiving when you make mistakes, and definitely had some pain involved in that and some road rash that came with that. But felt pretty good at the end of the day, and was ready to get some rest. So the Leslie, you know, going from Gilbert to Leslie, it took me a bit longer than I had anticipated. Again, I was kind of struggling. I was fighting through cramps on day one. So I ended up getting over to Star Mountain, and when I was riding across Star Mountain, I started to get into some darkness. And then by the time I got to Nubbin Hill, it was, you know, it was dark, right? So you switch the lights on. Riding at night is, it's kind of like driving at night, right? You have this hypersensitivity to things that are around you. You're always on the lookout for animals. It's harder to see the road. Because of that, you don't see the ruts in the road or the big rocks, and so you have some hypersensitivity at riding at night, and it definitely makes you slower. But there's also a peacefulness that comes with riding at night. It's kind of intriguing, right? You only see what's in those headlights, and I don't know, it's kind of a neat experience. It's kind of a surreal thing to ride at night. Yeah, you know, and when I got to the community center, it's like any place you decide that you're going to camp or stay, you know, it is that moment of relief, right? It's a great relief to get to where you're going to be. You can get your stuff unpacked. I had the benefit of being able to stay in the community center, which meant I wasn't going to be cold that night, right? And so I had planned ahead for this, so I didn't bring a tent. You know, always the first thing I do when I get to where I'm going to be for the night is do the maintenance on my bike. It's like the one thing, it's unforgiving if you don't do that. Really, you don't finish, I view it this way, that I don't finish the ride until I have cleaned up my bike and oiled my chain and done the maintenance I need to do on my bike. Then kind of think about what the next day is going to be. So yeah, it was great to be able to do that. And so there's a lot of blessings like that along the route. There's a lot of places to stay. So if you want to stay in the campground areas, or you want to bivvy on the side of the road, obviously that's available to you. But there's also a lot of places along the route where you can spend the night. So Whit Springs has the community center, essentially have created like a hostel environment there where you can stay there. They have showers, bathrooms, they have a kitchen, so you can shelter inside in the gym. And the same thing in Leslie, you know, there's those cabins, Airbnbs, there's the community center. And so those kind of places are dotted along the route. I think there's less miles today and less elevation. So my Garmin rates climbs. I don't really know the rule. I don't know how they do that. But when you load a map, the Garmin will tell you how many climbs you have on that route. And I think it says I have 14 rated climbs on the Ozark Grinder Trail, and 10 of them were yesterday. So 10 of the 14 were yesterday. It shows I only have 4 rated climbs today. I do know of one like super tough one when I get through Shirley and head back on gravel. I've ridden that section before, so I remember that being, you know, just a super tough climb, because it's almost like the road's almost no better than like a riverbed, right? So you're going over really chunky rocks, and it's super steep and long. I think this is probably for most people a 3-4 day thing. 2 is tough. I'm sure there's people who are going to do it in 1. In fact, I know there will be, because we created the individual time trial map, and so people are going to grab a hold of that and they're going to gut it out and try to get through the whole thing, and I'm sure people are going to do it. But to enjoy it, I think you probably need that 3 days to really be able to stop and take all the photos. That's the tough part if you're trying to blast through something. There's so many beautiful things to see. There's so much cool stuff to see on the Ozark Grinder Trail that it's like you're missing out on the opportunity if you don't document it, right? If you don't get the photos. Yeah, so when I got started on day 2, I actually felt great. My legs really came back overnight. You know, I was certainly feeling it after dealing with the cramping issues on day 1. Day 2, I got up about 6 a.m. And I felt really good. You know, my legs felt great. I was able to get some breakfast in me. I went to a convenience store there in Leslie and was able to get some food and coffee in me right away. And then I headed out of Leslie. It's kind of a nice roll for maybe the first 8 or 10 miles. And then you get into that area where you got to climb Campbell Mountain. Well, by then my legs were pretty loose. That's a very difficult climb. Very time-consuming climb, but it's a beautiful area. So I was just, you know, I was kind of enjoying the day, and I still felt great. I got to the top of Campbell Mountain, and then you hit 66, so you're back on pavement. Knowing that I had the Oxley store ahead of me, and the Oxley store is just like another one of these great respites, right? So I got to the Oxley store, biscuits and gravy. I asked them if they sold chocolate milk. Well, they actually make you chocolate milk, and so I had a big glass of chocolate milk, and biscuits and gravy is like the perfect thing to get in my system. I wanted to manage my nutrition game better on day 2, so I was making sure that I was stopping and eating. I keep nutrition with me, and so I really felt great.
'Cause little Missy Missouri set foot in the ocean, but never the sea. I'll bury her into the ground next to the old lemon tree. For the fruits have gone sour and bitter that no one would eat. Call it back, call myself a freak. Bend the rules so I can show her home. Shave my head and change the way I think of. The way I feel, the way I feel, the way I feel. The way I feel, the way I feel, the way I feel. To her heart, I will offer my shield. The sour has turned into sweet.
Yeah, and so, you know, when I'm riding up these ascents, and it really, how you handle them really changes throughout the year. You know, I'll kind of do that typical weaving back and forth on the road. It helps take the sting out of the grade. You know, we have grades on the Ozark Grinder Trail that are 17, 18%. There's even some 20% stuff. And so when you're riding, you know, you're kind of zigzagging across the road, it takes some of the sting out.
Months will go like sand to stone. Maybe I'll grow, maybe I won't. Call it back and call myself a freak. Bend the rules so I can show her home. Shake my head and change the way I think of. The way I feel, the way I feel, the way I feel. The way I feel, the way I feel, the way I feel.
Right there. There's a hole. So that means
there.
wheels got to come off and put a tube in, huh?
Punctured. Whatever it is.
I know, it's like...
Yeah, Dad was like, he's about to turn around fast.
We're kind of dragging way behind. In case somebody comes up behind us and slow them down. So there's a bike in here. How did we saw you? Yeah, we saw you.
I'm gonna shove a plug right there,
Okay.
but it's definitely not gonna hold unless I do something.
It don't take a lot of air pressure anyway, does it?
Now I only run 30 in it on gravel because it's I had a rock
You gotta plug it.
that I hit on the edge and it slung off to the side, and I thought, that's usually when you have one like that, you pinch the rim, and sure enough it started leaking. If I have to take the tire completely off, then I'll have to take the tire off, I'll have to leave the tire, it's kind of it's not really hard, but it becomes a little bit more challenging when you're running tubeless. You got all that stuff in there to deal with. It makes it messy. I really feel like this wants to hold.
I do too, you know.
That's my hope.
Yeah.
I should probably pump it up real quick, just to make sure. But the air cartridges, you cannot control the flow of the air.
Right.
I mean, it's going to put in what it's going to put in. I try to keep mountain bike air cartridges,
Yeah.
because they'll put less air in. Because the worst thing is, you know, you can't run 50, 60 pounds out here. You'll be puncturing tires, and then you get what's called drift. So I'm going down a descent and I hit a rock, and it carries me over, and then you just start drifting across the gravel. You can't end up
Lost
controlling it.
control.
You lost control.
I've done that a few times on bikes and wrecked. You know, sometimes you just can't get that control back, especially going down a hill.
To ask people is, what's your hobby? You know, how much money do you have in hunting stuff, or how much money do you have in a bass boat?
Exactly.
How much money do you have in your cars, or whatever your hobbies are?
Right.
You know, they always tend to be expensive, and you know, I have probably $6,000 in this bike, but it's a bike that's built for what I do. I was able to ride down to this area where they have a gnome village. So, you know, you always find these little finds, right, on any of these routes. And there, I had heard about this little gnome village, and it actually is right on the route. And so we found that gnome village, and I was able to get off my bike and walk around. It was like this really cool little place that I was able to get off the bike, get some water, enjoy the kind of art that was given to me there, and I was able to get back on the bike and head down into an area called Lidless. You cross over the Little Red River there at Lidless, and you get onto an old rail line. No two ways about it, that road's chunky. It's chunky when there's no rain, there's chunky when it's rain. It's just, you deal with that in gravel riding. And so it was probably in better shape than I had anticipated it to be in, but you're still gonna ride through a lot of mud puddles, and it's just kind of part of cycling.
I was whistling out the wild lines, far from a beaten path, out there looking for the last blank space on the map. Freckles on her shoulders like burrs on a deer. There's nothing she won't tell you.
You cross over that bridge at Shirley, and got to a little convenience store, had a hamburger. Again, I wanted to manage my nutrition better. Love mustard packets. They kind of help They kind of helped me keep the cramps at bay. Loaded up my burger with mustard, got that down, had some Gatorade, and rolled out from there. It's 14 miles, that final 14 miles from Shirley to Fairfield Bay. You get into some pretty tough gravel, but you also get some beautiful, beautiful stuff along the Little Red River. And that's the great thing about the Ozark Grinder Trail, is you just have so much pristine beauty, so many places that just a lot of people don't travel to. So you get to see a lot of beautiful things. And it kind of takes your mind off the pain, and you get to enjoy the scenery, and you get to enjoy that solidarity of cycling and those secluded moments.
And coffee, the blankets all rucked up, sleeping like a bug up in the undercut. While the clouds come and go, there's always been stars. Deep in the bear's belly, love is brightest in the dark. We ain't the only ones out here hunting ourselves, hanging our hearts up in the trees, 'cause they don't belong nowhere else.
So in any of these kind of endeavors, you know, you're gonna meet the characters that are along the route, and I've had those experiences almost every time I ride. I meet somebody interesting. And so on this particular route on day 2, I got through Shirley, was on my way to Fairfield Bay, and there's a real intense climb you have to deal with, and it's a very chunky road. So I got to the top of that, and I stopped my bike. I'm kind of resting, getting a drink of water, and I see these 3 guys at a house, and one starts walking out to the road, and I can tell the guy's drunk, and he says, "Hey, I want to ask you a question." And I said, "Yeah?" And he said, "Did you just ride your bike up that hill?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Wait a minute, are you filming me?" Because I had a GoPro on my helmet, and I said, "Yeah, but we'll probably edit that footage out." I said, "Unless you got something funny to say or you want to tell a joke." So he's kind of looking off into space. I know he's trying to come up with a joke to tell, but he can't think of one. But anyhow, you meet these people. They're always along the route. And for me, I just never want to miss those opportunities to interact with people. I have met so many interesting people along the route, people who have made their living in these places. And, you know, that's the part of what we call trail love. You know, where you meet these people and they give you these moments that you get to remember. And a lot of times they offer you a glass of water, they offer you a shade tree to sit under. I've had people offer me food. I think those are the nuggets, you know. That's what makes riding in some of these rural areas so special, is you get to meet people that live along the route.
With a woman, and she makes me want to sing a song. I'm in love with a woman, and she makes me want to build a home.
Got through the last climb of the day, got to Fairfield Bay. Ozark Grinder Trail is actually mapped directly to a brand new hotel in Fairfield Bay, so it's awesome. You can spend the night there. They have a great restaurant there. It's a great place to kind of, you know, get your legs again. And so the route itself, I think, is just perfect, because you get a lot of miles to just enjoy the scenery, and then you're going to come into the little communities where you can shelter and get food. And it just kind of works out perfectly over the course of the 140 miles. Any of this stuff can be an emotional journey, right? And it always is for me, and I always want it to be. You know, again, I mentioned the things you learn about yourself. Those are the best things to learn. And so I always have these moments where I'm able to reflect. And so I'm riding into Fairfield Bay, and I'm just thinking, you know, I just covered 140 miles in 2 days, over 13,000 feet of elevation. And I'm thankful that my body is able to respond well to this stuff. and I'm able to do these things. And I'm always thankful that my bike held up. You know, I always thank Teddy for, you know, keeping me upright. And, you know, I think if you do these kind of things and you don't have these moments of reflection about what you accomplished, you're really missing something. I know it's a goal to get to the finish line, but it's more than a goal. It's like a journey. And that's the great thing about being able to do these things. For a while, I ride my life. I reflect on my thoughts. I wander into a different world. I chase stars. For a while, I own the dream. I feel the warmth of the sun. I meander on the roads. I feel the spell. For a while, I chart my destiny. I engineer my journey. I flounder with joy. I race the winds. For a while, I live on my wheels. So now that we've completed the entire length of the route, the exciting thing that's coming is in September of 2021, we're going to be hosting the first ever Ozark Grinder Trail race. This will be a unique experience because we're going to make it a stage event. So it'll be an individual event where riders will end the day in Leslie, and then day 2 will be Leslie to Fairfield Bay, much in the way I wrote it. But we're also going to do it as a 2-man event and a 4-person event. So it's going to allow people of all different cycling skills to be able to experience their own definition of epic. So we're super excited about hosting that, so stay tuned for that. Like our Facebook page, the Ozark Grinder Trail, and more news will be coming about that. But it's going to be, I think, the first staged gravel event in the state of Arkansas. We're super excited about this. So our hope is that you'll come and enjoy the Ozark Grinder Trail. You can reach out to me or the Searcy County Chamber of Commerce for help in routing, kind of creating your own journey. But we look forward to hosting. I think you'll have a great time when you're on the Ozark Grinder Trail. And, you know, you'll be able to find your own epic. And I think that's what we're all looking for.
All the hills looked like different kinds of fur in the morning. Dirty wool-torn clouds blowing through the chinks in my day. Neck deep in the brambles, holding pieces of the beast. Bring the dogs to the river where the sea used to be. Radishes and butter, salt and animal fat.